Welcome back to Just Ask George. David Wolf here with George Lovato Jr.
How are you?
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We're in January. 2018 is going to be a great year. We're starting it off on the right foot.
Absolutely. The right foot, all our feet are on the ground, and we're firmly grounded in 2018 as we roll to almost the end of the month now. I can't
Can you believe it? Where did 17 go?
Yeah, that's a good question.
All I got to say is
it
flew.
It flew. I was going to say, where did the last 15 years go? Is another possible.
I think I would have been 45.
That sounds good. Where do I say?
I would have liked that.
Exactly. Where do I say? So we're here to talk today on this edition of 2.0 about your latest publication. It's coming out very shortly. So top level, George, what was the inspiration?
It started, it sort of evolved over my entire career. And the central idea came out of a meeting that I had, I attended. And I was really surprised by the entire board's response to a very heavy-duty crisis, in that they, including a clergyman that was there, a priest was there, and they were very dismissive about just jettisoning all these jobs and people and company because they felt it was basically a non-performer. My job was to give them a recommendation on what to do with it. And their response was amazing. And I was stunned by it. So much so, the flash in that instant, when I had that experience and I describe it in the book, the entire book wrote itself in my head in a flash. Right from that epiphany of the experience. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
Chapter 1, the epiphany. The book, of course, is Higher Power Business. And,
yes.
When you hear those words, higher power, they may suggest something a little bit different.
Yes, I remember you thought it is about management in some respect. Yes, the power, be a more powerful manager. But it's really about the higher power and sort of the hypocrisy and a little bit of the contradiction in modern business today, boardrooms across the country, where in 1 minute they're opening their board meeting with a prayer, but they're throwing the 10 Commandments out when they make their decisions. You know, the idea that they're not honest, a board. They're not being honest with their shareholders or their employees or their in so many different ways.
Or themselves. It's so beautiful.
And you sort of throw that out the window because you prayed, okay, we're men of faith. And
well, where did that go when we got into it? So we're going to talk about George's new book. I'm so excited about this. We're going to peel back the layers, get into your process.
Right on.
Share some of the stories. We'll be right back.
Bye-bye.
Podcastandradio.com offers turnkey content production solutions for your business enterprise, including audio podcasts, internet radio stations, and video production. For more than 25 years, media producer David Wolf has served clients worldwide, such as Southwest Airlines, McDonald's, Long John Silver's, Disney, Chuck E. Cheese Enterprises, Fast Signs, Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and many, many more. Today, podcastandradio.com serves companies of any size across a broad range of industries with content marketing they need to keep their website, email marketing, and social media channels current and engaging with fresh content. For more information, visit podcastandраdio.com. George Lovato's first and very popular book, The Obstacle Course, can be purchased online at Amazon.com. The Obstacle Course chronicles the success story of George Lovato Jr.'s climb to national notoriety as he built one of America's largest car rental companies, and features his harrowing story as he grabbed the brass ring by successfully taking this enterprise public in the salad days of NASDAQ. Many of the teachings in this book are still relevant today in the modern business age. The Obstacle Course is available on Amazon.com. Welcome back, David Wolf with George Lovato. Here to talk about George's new book, Higher Power Business. The epiphany is where this all starts for you. And this idea that there is hypocrisy, that we're not being true to ourselves in terms of our relationship to faith and God, whatever that means to us, right, George?
Right. So, it's a sort of a ecumenical approach to faith, whatever you believe in. I think Dyer called it the source, and other speakers call it God, and Joel Osteen calls it God, and other people call it Buddha or whatever. It's whatever your higher power is, as your own definition. That is essentially what we're discussing in this book. And it started, as I said in the intro, at a meeting. But going forward, there is a little bit of commentary, if you will, in the book related very closely to some current events that are going on right now.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a movement, and you mentioned this in one of the chapters, of the media taking a sensationalistic sort of approach to reporting on how we relate to each other in the workplace. Of course, this is inspired by the horrible, horrible abuse that we're witnessing by some very high-powered men in many businesses. But your view of this is you're really kind of peeling back the layers of that onion and saying, well, wait a minute. We don't have to swing the pendulum all the way the other direction. Let's get in touch with our humanity, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I think that's what really the essence of this whole discussion that's going on about sexual abuse and sexual harassment is that, wait a minute, stop, hold the music. Let's go back, take a couple steps back, and let's operate our business from the perspective of, since God surrounds us 360 degrees by 360 degrees spherically, 365 days a year, we need to admit to ourselves that he's also involved in our business. He's already there. Because we can't just say, well, I walked in the office door and I stopped my faith right at the threshold of the office door. And so we really have to include, not only the laws of the state, the municipality, and the federal and the United States, we really have to include God, the Ten Commandments, and so on and so forth in every business decision that we make. So we've got rules of society, laws of society, and we've got the Ten Commandments, and we have a higher power. And so I'm asking everyone to embrace that idea.
Absolutely. It's really, the thing that struck me as I read this is it's really a story or a narrative of integration. Of humanity with the things we do, because we are people that run businesses. We're not just managers that run businesses. We're a whole person.
We're human beings, and one chapter in the book is called Love, and I raise the issue there that I'm sure that there's going to be some human resource consultant or Fortune 100 HR vice president that's going to say, oh, you're completely wrong about this. What I'm getting across in that chapter, and I say it to you all the time, you say it back, we end conversations, hey, love you, David, love you, George. Expression of love.
Right.
And we as human beings, that's natural for us to want to reach out and connect with other human beings.
Absolutely.
And before the show, I was telling you I read an HR manual for Fortune 100, and it actually said in there that you cannot shake hands with your fellow. You can't make any physical contact at all. And that discussion of politics, discussion of money, earnings, discussion of religion, so on. But I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about faith. And therein lies a difference. I'm talking about the higher power. And so if I worked for that company, we could not have this discussion in that building.
It exactly right.
Yeah.
It would be prohibited.
Right. And for me to say to a fellow, hey, love you, appreciate that. And over the years, and I say it in the book, in 35, almost 40 years in business now, I've told employees, I've said to them, hey, I love the work that you're doing, and I really love the fact that you're working so hard for this company, and I love you for being the person you are.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I always try to express gratitude to employees.
Yes.
I never once had a sexual harassment case filed against me for saying, love you, or I love the work you do.
Right.
And I say in the book, as long as, you express that connection with that person in an honest, sincere, non-sexual way, then it's fine, because that's what we do as human beings. We want to connect with the next person. And what better way, I used to say, in motivating an employee is telling them, I love you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And embracing the humanity in that context of the workplace, even though there's so much noise in the media and everywhere else about crossing lines. And those lines should never be crossed in the ways that some of those personalities have done.
And I'm clear about that.
You're very clear in the book, and we're clear as humans. And I know for you, and I've worked with you and for you, there is it's a very organic thing for you to integrate this way. Your soul is in everything. Your faith is in everything.
You've seen me work with clients,
right.
I tell one story in there where I've got one client. He was really, really having a hard time. He was back on the balls of his butt, and he was in a bad place. And he was fairly new to me at the time. And I said, "Hey, man, we're going to get out of this. I got to run right now, but I want to know I love you. Hang in there. I'll be back with you shortly."
Yeah.
It lifted him up. It lifted him up literally out of that ditch that he was running in at that point in time. And he said, "Hey, I love you too, man. Thank you." He said, "Thank you." Now,
yeah, there was an exchange of energy there.
It was honest. It was sincere. Right. It's what I talk about in the book. And I think that it's okay. And now there are Fortune 100 CEOs and COOs out there that are going to say, "Oh, that's horsepucky. You should never, you can't cross that line." Well, I say, then that's the dehumanization of your management method.
the dehuman, that'll be your next,
that'll be book 2.
The next book.
Book 2 after this.
It's been said, and I'm a content marketing guy, all over it, people always say that the way to connect, we're talking about the internal culture of a company and how to express ourselves and embrace humanity. But let's also talk about it in terms of we make emotional connections with people.
Absolutely.
And that's how we sell too. So there's an external piece to this, isn't there?
There absolutely is. And I think that when people realize that you're a people person and you're honestly attempting to make a connection, I think they respect that more than the robotic sales pitch that they get. Mm-hmm. And I think it's easier for you to quote unquote close a deal because they realize who you are and the type of person you are.
Yeah, the who behind your biz.
Yeah, exactly. And I had one friend of mine who read one of the rough drafts come back and said, I get it. I get the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And he said, but I think there's going to be some pushback on this idea of expressing love in the workplace. And I said, I'm hoping there is, because I want to start the discussion. And that's the whole reason I wrote the book, is to start the discussion. And talking about, hey, something else, visualization, how important it is. The fact that you're letting God in your business, praying, getting, and I've talked about prayer is universal, it's ecumenical, but asking God for help in a challenge you're facing, a problem that you're trying to resolve, a situation that is presenting itself to you that you just don't have answers to. Open yourself up to the higher power. Mm-hmm. Ask, because you can ask for anything as long as it's with, in the boundaries of the rules of society, the laws of society, the 10 Commandments, parking signs,
ethical behaviors, whatever the
speed limits, so on and so forth. God, please help me break the speed limit today. No, but God, help me get there faster some way. By having all green lights. That sort of thing.
There's a story, George, in your chapter called "Beware and Be Open to God" about the picker. Talk about the way your awareness of God helped you in that situation or guided you.
Two different ends of the spectrum. One, understanding my picker was broken. And two, realizing that right in front of me was the person that could take this task on that I was faced with, and that they had the skill set to resolve a challenge I was facing, trying to find a well-experienced, efficient executive assistant and operations person who happened to be Vicky. And way back in the days of RentRight, she was an incredible person, very loyal. And I didn't pick her because I kept interviewing people and the interviews just basically fell apart. I was picking the wrong people to interview. And so my wife's uncle, who was working for me at the time, he wound up asking me, because he was working for me part-time. He was a retired school principal, very, very good manager, very well experienced. And he came out and he said, I'll take care of it for you while you're gone. And I was building the network and out there traveling quite a bit. And when I came back after a couple of weeks, he found the perfect person. Wow. And he explained how he found her and how many he interviewed and what the interview process was and what the initial criteria was. And it was like, the heavens opened up and there was an aha moment, the ray of light
cue the choir.
From the sun. Yeah, cue the choir. And I went, gee, I didn't know that was the method to do that. And he taught me in the blink of an eye what I needed to do from there forward. Then later on, when this is years later, now my picker being a little bit better honed, I was able to look for the signs and see the signs and signals the higher power was giving me, where this person was right in front of me that I needed for another position in the publishing company, which was a different business and where Vicki was involved.
Yeah.
And there was this perfect person, Anne, who was right in front of me for other reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just blurted out, I think I want you to come to work for me. Would you? And she'd been introduced to me through Dr. David Poling, and bingo, the best employee, bar none in that corporation, took everything on, never was full of fear, was daunted by anything, was discouraged. She just went right through stone walls to get where she needed to go. She was just unbelievable, an incredible talent. But I was watching for the signs and signals that were being given to me by a higher power that this is the right person. And that's integrating part of that picker process and into the whole
360 by
360 by 365.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And I think it's a testament to being open to God and to understand that when we ask, we're given the signs and signals on a regular basis.
We talk about God in many different ways, and I've been very transparent about my new practice with meditation, which is my form of praying. Mm-hmm. You talk about really meditation is prayer, is praying is meditation. Right?
It is. The idea of mindfulness. Right. When you look at what mindfulness is and how they describe how to do it and what you're doing and what you're supposed to achieve, it's been around for thousands of years. Exactly. It's prayer. And you pray in your own way.
That's right.
And you also visualize. That's one thing that I've, over the years, I've seen you evolve with the visualization.
Yep.
And it's part of the process. So you've got prayer, you've got visualization, you have this being open to God and expressing love. That's higher power business.
It's higher power being a person on the planet who is in business too. But this is the
that's the message.
That's the message for you
the core message.
In terms of delivering it. It's going to be fascinating to see the reception of this in the marketplace because I think it's sorely you're filling a gap that's this sort of chasm that formed. As
I think it's going to start a discussion. Because there are I think for the average muckety-muck white shirt manager that's out there, he's going to raise issues with it, and I invite the discussion because I think it's important. I think whether it's a Fortune 100 or your around the corner retail store owned by mom and pop, I think it suits everybody. And I say in the book, we need more love in this world. I mean, the divisiveness in this country right now is so overwhelming at times to me, that I sit there and I just think, okay, I can respect your opinion, I can respect your position, but it doesn't mean I have to force you to agree with mine before we can even talk.
Exactly.
Why can't you just have a discussion? Why do you have to argue that you're right and they're wrong?
Right.
Exactly. It's why Washington's dysfunctional. They're very divisive and they're just completely confused about what their job is, because there's only right and only wrong, and there's no middle ground anymore. So I think, that I should probably go to the Hill and sit them all down and say, hey, express your love for one another, fellas. Maybe this whole divisiveness will pass.
And have a groovy moment. And now I really know why he has been bringing the word groovy.
Groovy. I'm personally bringing that back.
But seriously, it's in that instance, I think a lot of it is because of the polarity and the protectiveness of ego. And
that's a good point.
The misplaced importance of being a winner or a loser.
Yeah.
Just like a right or a left or an up or a down.
Yeah.
It's not, they're gradient shades, and we're talking about a spectrum.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about myself on the spectrum, by the way. No, it's a spectrum of how we navigate issues.
And I of course, I didn't put this in the book, but I do refer to it all the time about the way you and I work.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We are two completely different personalities. We are two.
Yep.
We see the world differently in so many ways.
Right.
You and I have never had an argument. We've had discussions. We've never argued about anything.
No.
And we work well together because we understand we're both human beings on the planet, as you say.
Absolutely.
And we have a great working style together. I think that's why the show works, people, because David is who he is.
It feeds the chemistry that you're experiencing when you watch these, and we experience in doing them.
Yeah, in doing them. And I always point back that when I say to other people when they have somebody that's in the workplace that maybe they're not working well with,
right.
or at that point, I always use you as the example.
Oh, wow.
I always say I work with a guy that is not opposite me, but so different than me, yet I'm able to work with him efficiently, effectively, and there's a natural friendship and chemistry there. So why don't you look for that in that other person?
Right.
Why don't you look for their uniqueness?
Right. Look for the thing you can learn from them, which is a pivot I wanted to cover before as we wind up the segment. Give often and ask God what you can do for him. So as we're talking about this exchange of energy that makes harmony happen,
He puts us here on this planet. This higher power puts us here on this planet. And we need to recognize that it's not all about us. We should be, as human beings are, we are naturally, when we're little kids, we're kind of giving. We need help, but we give back. We give back a lot of love as small children. And that kind of dissipates over time. But, then you become a hardened soul. And but the idea is that, you learn that from adults, right? So the idea here is that you really need to understand and try to work at being a human being, expressing love, visualization, prayer. But prayer is also asking, not God, help me with having strength to deal with this challenge. Prayer is also asking God, what can I do for you? I'm here on this planet. You put me here. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
How can I act as your instrument?
Yeah.
And you will receive signs and signals where, maybe it's, helping you change a tire. I'm having to be right there when the tire went flat,
Yeah.
So
the universe conspiring, God conspiring, same stuff.
Exactly. Same. The source, if you want to call it the source. Wayne Dyer used to call it that, or his audiobooks still call it that. Yeah. But my point is, ask and he'll let you know.
Beautiful stuff. The book is Higher Power Business. We've been visiting with my partner, the author, George Lovato.
Book
Jr.
number 5.
Book number 5.
Which I will point out.
This is going to be widely distributed.
Yes. We've made the deal with Amazon, with Barnes & Noble. We're coming out. You and I are collaborating briefly on an audio version of this, and also it'll be out in the ebook form. Right. But I will say that the rewrite, because we were going to release the book in the fall, the rewrite of the book, because of current events that were surrounding us at that time, which was a signal from a higher power. Hey, rethink this. This is a chance to strengthen your message. Yeah. Caused the rewrite of the book and this later release here this spring. Yeah. And as a result of that, it's caused me to go back, pull the common denominators of an unprofitable business off the shelf and rewrite it to integrate these new thoughts and feelings with higher power. So that'll come out this fall, unless current events cause me to delay that one again. But,
which would be another
but that was book 4, okay? Right. And so it's often we're going to redo it.
Beautiful. It's like the Lucas filmmaking school where there's a constant.
You go back to the prequel.
You're going to constant. It's a dynamically changing delivery of information and.
I'm glad you read it. I did have a chapter or story in there about you, but I took it out because you're gonna be in. I'm rewriting the common denominators of an unprofitable business. I use you as the example of the guy that does the complete 180 turnover and makeover, and you became a what I consider a very well-schooled, educated manager as a result of your previous experiences, and you've put that to work today. Again, I think we talked about this in another show where you're back to the core of what you really do best.
The return to the scene of the crime is
and that you're in that. There is a long segment about you in there. It's very flattering.
Well, thank you. I look forward to that. and books 6, 7, and 8 as well. Yeah. We are Just Ask George. Thanks as always for being with us. You can correspond and find us online, bhcapitalltd.com or podcastandradio.com. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
George Lovato Jr. authors books that are tailor-made for today's business environment. If you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or you run a business enterprise, you don't want to miss the books he's authored over the past 4 years, including The Obstacle Course, The Best Damn Guide to Business Finance, and George's groundbreaking ebook, How to Finance Your Business. His latest book, Higher Power Business, is a departure from his previous works and proves to be a very controversial source of discussion among its reviewers and preview readers. Higher Power Business makes the case that corporate America is conflicted and in many cases hypocritical about recognizing God in business matters. In it, Lovato states that God is already in our business 365 days a year, and that he surrounds us 360 degrees by 360 degrees spherically. Now available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, this book is touted by many critics to be a very controversial bestseller. Be sure to put in your order for Higher Power Business today at bhcapitalltd.com. BH Capital Limited is celebrating over 30 years of providing proactive finance and management solutions for American enterprise. Under the leadership of George Lovato Jr., the firm exists as an expert in the complex world of structured finance, modern management strategies and techniques, and breaking the code of marketing in the modern digital age. Through its ability to lend or invest singularly or in conjunction with other institutions or investors, American enterprise has been able to resolve many of the complex issues surrounding corporate finance as a result of BH Capital's participation. Having assisted and advised many top American corporate executives, BH Capital Limited is a driving force in American management consulting and advisory engagements. Find out more by visiting bhcapitalltd.com.